Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer, and I'm podcasting from Ma'ale Adumim in Israel. Life is complex. Anybody who says otherwise either is fooling themselves or isn't living out in the real world. Life has so many odd twists and turns that it is impossible to know what is coming down the pipeline tomorrow or even 15 minutes from now. If anyone has any doubt about the complexity of life, they need look no further than their own mind. The human mind is the most complex entity known in the universe. There may be more complex things out there, but we don't know about them at this point. Just think about all the unpredictable nuances of the human personality, or the feelings that pass through the brain-mind interface, the thoughts of incredible depth and disturbing pettiness, the experiences, the memories, the dreams, and one sees almost immediately that it is nothing short of mind-blowing. If one wants to go a little further, they can extrapolate to the minds of those around them. While we have no true access to what is really going on in the mind of another, we have no great reason to doubt that it is any different from what is going on in our own mind. Pretty much everybody accepts this as a solid fact that needs no proof. Now imagine an entire world of these minds, 8 billion of them, interacting, conflicting, cooperating, loving, hating, bouncing things off one another. And we have a web of downright infinite complexity that would seem to challenge even the mind of God. Add to this the entire rest of the world, the animals and the plants, the complex systems of ecology and the environment, the colors and shapes that make up everything that we live within, the heat and the cold, the light and the dark, the hard and the soft. We live amidst a sea of change and contrast. It is stark and it is beautiful. It is wonderful and it is terrible. It is a world which never stays the same on any level, yet always remains as perennial as the rising and setting of the sun. There is not a single thing in the world that cannot be examined and studied to almost infinite layers. Yet it all fits together like a gigantic multi-dimensional jigsaw puzzle with every piece playing its essential part. We could go further, though it really isn't necessary at this point. We could leave our planet and venture out into space. We would find countless other planets, some like our own, and others starkly empty of everything. We might find life or we might not. We might find intelligence or emotions or who knows what. We would find myriads of stars and odd assortments of gases and solids whirling around each other at vast distances and speeds. We might find traces of the Big Bang that brought our universe into being somehow, revealing the fathomless complexity of creation and the nature of reality. On the other hand, life is quite simple. It is getting up, doing stuff, and going back to sleep. It is living and then dying. It is looking around and noticing that everything is still out there and then retreating back into the protective shell of the self. It is dealing with the handful of people we have to deal with and choosing or hoping that things turn out okay and that somehow we reach a state of satisfaction or even happiness. Life is really just a few things that we have to get down, and a few others that may be interesting options, and the rest nothing more than a distracting sideshow. Everything can be boiled down to a bunch of choices, and with not all that much leeway as to where we can head. Even these choices may not be as real and as in our hands as we have come to believe. It may all be nothing more than a predetermined movie of which we play the central role. Which is it? Is life simple or is it complex? Seeing it as complex certainly adds multiple layers of depth to everything. But seeing it as simple eliminates all the unnecessary clutter that needlessly complicates so much of what we do. This is really a tough choice, and we make it all the time. Sometimes we relish in the complexity, needing to feel busy and challenged, appreciating the vast complexity of the levels of reality, and realizing that we are part of it all and are expected to play our essential role. But in others, we wish for simplicity, to see everything as nothing more and nothing less than as it is, a world and a life with no great mysteries and no hidden levels. This week's Parsha is called Re'eh. That word means see, as in notice or observe. It is the very first word in the Parsha, and it introduces an idea that cuts right into this question of simplicity and complexity. The Parsha states, observe, that, quote, I have placed before you today a blessing and a curse. And then clarifies a little what this blessing and curse actually are. The blessing, it says, is if you obey the commandments of Hashem your God. which are about to be restated in the rest of this parsha and in the next few parshas. The curse is if you don't obey those commandments and go astray from the path being commanded, following other gods which you do not know at this point. This is what the blessing and curse are all about. It is a rather dramatic introduction to a parsha that is really a long list of commandments. This is the first of a series of parshas that brings us into the second of the three parts that comprise the book of Deuteronomy. The first part was a long historical recap of what had happened to the Israelites on their long journey to the land of Israel and what the purpose of the whole enterprise was to begin with. All of the pitfalls that they have experienced already and will continue to experience are listed in great detail. The stress was always on following God's laws and never veering from the very rigid path of biblical monotheism. The temptation would always be there to seek other paths, and this would be the great challenge of the future. The second part of Deuteronomy is the details of that path. These are all the commandments. Deuteronomy means second law, which is what this section really is. It is a retelling of many of the laws already stated in the earlier books of the Torah, sometimes in a slightly different form and sometimes exactly as before. There are also many new laws that have never come up earlier in the Torah. These laws take up most of the next three parshas. The third part focuses on the future, which is the destiny of the Israelites. It again stresses the challenges and the pitfalls, but it is geared towards what actually will happen as opposed to what might happen. This part is very prophetic, and it reads like a guidebook into the future. It is not all peaches and cream, and the challenges and failures will never go away, as borne out by subsequent Jewish history. But this middle part is where we are right now. We are not going to go into the details of any of the many commandments listed in this parsha. Instead, we shall focus on this introduction. The purpose of the commandments are summed up in these very first few verses. Keep the commandments, and there will be blessing. Don't keep them, and there will be curse. What could be simpler? The parsha next describes where this blessing and curse will actually be carried out. It is to be on two mountains that are across the Jordan River on the Canaan side. One is Mount Gerizim, and the other is Mount Ebal. Not much is told here about what is to happen on these mountains, but that is clarified in the first parsha of the third section of Deuteronomy. There we read of a series of curses to be read on Mount Ebal. There are 11 of them, and they deal with matters of sexual impropriety and certain social laws, and of course, the constant threat of idolatry. These curses are meant to sum up the gist of the commandments mentioned in the parshas that preceded that section. It is understood that in contrast to the curse for not following the commandments, the blessings for following them will be read on the other mountain, Mount Gerizim. This is what this brief introduction to the parsha is really all about. Why is it stated so simply? Are things really that straightforward that if someone keeps these commandments, everything works out fine and life is nothing but a continuous stream of blessings? And are things so simple that if one doesn't follow these commandments, life will turn out to be an endless hell of curses? This is a bit hard to swallow. Were people in biblical times so naive that they could actually believe this was what would happen? We all know that things are infinitely more complex than this, and simply following or not following a bunch of commandments does not determine everything in life. So what are we expected to get out of this simplistic explanation? We cannot deny reality. We experience every single day of our lives the vast complexity of how everything works. We live with sudden diseases and accidents and people barging into our lives and wreaking havoc on what we thought was a pretty well laid out plan. We live internally with our own hang-ups and idiosyncrasies and unpredictable personalities that frequently make us wonder if we are really at the helm of our own ship. We make choices all the time and they backfire upon us with regularity. We question our own choices and wonder if we really have any control over what happens to us, or even if we are really making those choices. This is life, and it is anything but simple. There is no formula such as do this and you will be blessed, and do that and you will be cursed. On the other hand, there are certain basics in life that we all understand and realize are essential. We can abide by those basics, or we can ignore them and try to work around them. This is our fundamental choice. The Torah lays out these basics as this list of commandments. That series of curses and the corresponding blessings spell out these basics in a kind of short form. This, according to the Torah, is what it is all about. Follow these basics and life will turn out to be worthwhile. Don't follow them and try your luck with some other belief system without these basics, and good luck. The fate of the Israelites was to be bound up in these basics. Their destiny, whether blessed or cursed, was intricately linked with basic choices they made collectively as a people. Perhaps in some small way, we are also given this choice. If we follow what we know to be the basics of a good life, we will be blessed in some vital way. If we don't, we open up our fate to whatever comes our way. Shabbat Shalom.